The untold story of Memphis Belle. The odds were stacked against them from the very first mission. Every time a B-17 Flying Fortress crossed into Nazi-occupied Europe, statistics said 1 in 4 wouldn't make it home. By 1943, the average lifespan of a bomber crew was just 15 missions. Yet somehow, against all probability, one crew and their aircraft would defy death 25 times over the most heavily defended airspace in human history. This is the story of the Memphis Belle and the 10 young Americans who cracked the code of survival when survival seemed impossible. But here's what the Hollywood movie didn't tell you. Their success wasn't luck, heroics, or divine intervention. It was something far more calculated, methodical, and absolutely fascinating. What kept these men alive when thousands of others perished wasn't what you think. The real secret behind their legendary survival has been hiding in plain sight for 80 years, buried in mission reports, crew interviews, and operational documents that reveal a story more incredible than any fiction. And if you're fascinated by these untold stories from history's most dramatic moments, make sure to subscribe to Chapters in History, because we dig deeper than the textbooks to uncover the real stories that changed the world. Today, we're uncovering the truth about why the Memphis Belle became the first heavy bomber to complete 25 missions over Europe and return home, and why their survival strategy would change aerial warfare forever. Chapter 1: The Deadly Odds. To understand why the Memphis Belle's survival was so extraordinary, you need to grasp just how lethal the skies over Nazi Germany had become by 1943. The 8th Air Force was bleeding crews at an unsustainable rate. Of the 12,731 B-17Es built during the war, 4,754 were lost in combat. That's more than 1 in 3. The Memphis Belle began her combat career on November 7, 1942, when the concept of daylight precision bombing was still largely theoretical. American strategists believed they could fly high, fast, and in formation to overwhelm German defenses. They were catastrophically wrong. German fighters had evolved into killing machines specifically designed to destroy B-17Es. The Messerschmitt Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf 19-0 could climb to 30,000 feet and attack from angles that exploited the Flying Fortress's blind spots. Meanwhile, German flak artillery had achieved a level of accuracy that turned the sky into a maze of explosive death. Captain Robert Morgan and his crew knew these statistics intimately. Every briefing reminded them that mathematical probability was their enemy. Most crews that survived their first 5 missions might make it to 10. Very few reached 15. The magic number of 25, the threshold that would send them home, seemed like a fantasy. But Morgan's crew was different. They had identified something that other crews were missing, something that would fundamentally change their approach to survival. Chapter 2: The crew's secret weapon. The Memphis Belle's survival wasn't built on individual heroism. It was built on systematic preparation that bordered on obsession. While other crews relied on standard training and hoped for the best, Captain Robert Morgan turned his crew into a precision instrument of survival. First, they revolutionized their approach to formations. Most B-17 crews flew in the assigned positions and maintained regulation distances. Morgan studied German fighter attack patterns and realized that slight variations in positioning could dramatically reduce their vulnerability. The Memphis Belle would fly just outside the optimal attack envelope, close enough to benefit from group defensive fire, but positioned to make German fighters work harder for clean shots. Second, they treated mechanical preparation like a religion. While other crews performed standard pre-flight checks, Morgan's crew developed an expanded 47-point inspection system. They checked everything twice, replaced components before they failed, and maintained their aircraft to standards that exceeded factory specifications. This wasn't paranoia, it was mathematics. Mechanical failure killed as many bombers as enemy action. Third, they mastered the art of damage assessment in flight. Most crews panicked when hit by flak or fighters. Morgan trained his crew to immediately assess damage, redistribute weight, and make real-time decisions about whether to continue the mission or abort. This split-second decision-making saved them multiple times when other crews would have pressed on to their destruction. But their most crucial innovation was something no other crew was doing systematically. They studied their enemies. Chapter 3. Know Your Enemy. While most Allied crews treated German fighters as a faceless threat, the Memphis Belle crew made it their business to understand exactly what they were facing. They studied German tactics, aircraft capabilities, and pilot behavior with the intensity of graduate students. Morgan and his crew analyzed combat reports from every mission, looking for patterns in German attacks. They discovered that Luftwaffe fighters had specific preferences for attack angles, timing, and target selection. German pilots weren't random killers. They were trained professionals following doctrine. Once you understood their doctrine, you could predict their moves. They identified that German fighters preferred attacking from the sun, targeting aircraft that appeared damaged or were flying in vulnerable positions. The Memphis Belle crew learned to present themselves as a harder target through precise formation flying, aggressive defensive fire, and calculated movements that disrupted German attack patterns. They also recognized that German flak batteries followed mathematical principles. Anti-aircraft guns calculated interception points based on observed speed, altitude, and course. By making subtle changes to their flight path, never enough to break formation, but enough to throw off calculations, they could reduce their exposure to accurate flak fire. This intelligence-gathering approach extended to understanding German industrial targets. The Memphis Belle crew studied reconnaissance photos, identified the most heavily defended approach routes, and planned their attacks to minimize time in the most dangerous airspace. They weren't just flying missions, they were solving tactical puzzles. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Survival. Perhaps the most overlooked factor in the Memphis Belle's survival was the crew's psychological preparation. Combat fatigue was destroying Allied bomber crews almost as efficiently as German fighters. Men were breaking down, making fatal errors, and losing the sharp edge that kept them alive. Morgan's crew developed what would today be recognized as advanced psychological conditioning. They practiced emergency procedures until they became automatic reflexes. They cross-trained on each other's positions so that if someone was wounded, others could take over critical functions. They developed communication protocols that worked even when the aircraft was taking heavy damage and intercom systems were failing. They also managed fear in a way that was revolutionary for its time. Instead of pretending not to be afraid, they acknowledged fear as useful information. Fear told them when they were taking unnecessary risks. Fear kept them sharp and focused. They learned to channel fear into hypervigilance rather than paralysis. The crew developed rituals and routines that maintained their psychological cohesion. They ate together, briefed together, and debriefed together. They treated each mission as both a unique challenge and part of a larger campaign they were determined to win. This psychological unity meant that in crisis situations, they functioned as a single organism, rather than 10 frightened individuals. Most importantly, they maintained absolute faith in their collective competence. Other crews hoped to survive. The Memphis Belle crew expected to survive because they had prepared more thoroughly than anyone else. Chapter 5. The Reputation Factor. As the Memphis Belle accumulated successful missions, something unexpected began working in their favor: their reputation. German intelligence was tracking Allied aircraft just as carefully as Allied intelligence was tracking German units. The Memphis Belle became known to German pilots as a particularly dangerous opponent. This reputation created a psychological warfare advantage that the crew leveraged brilliantly. German pilots preferred easier targets when they were available. A B-17 that had proven difficult to kill in previous encounters became a lower priority target when easier prey was available in the same formation. The Memphis Belle crew enhanced this reputation by being exceptionally aggressive in their defensive fire. They didn't just shoot at German fighters, they shot accurately and persistently. German pilots learned that attacking the Memphis Belle meant accepting heavier return fire and lower probability of success. This reputation also affected flak targeting. German anti-aircraft crews were given intelligence about high-value targets, but they also received reports about aircraft that consistently survived attacks. The Memphis Belle's survival record actually made them a more respected opponent, which paradoxically made them safer in some situations. The crew understood that their reputation was a tactical asset and worked to maintain it. They flew with precision, responded to threats aggressively, and never gave German forces reason to believe they were becoming complacent or vulnerable. Chapter 6: The Final Missions. As the Memphis Belle approached their 25th mission, the pressure intensified exponentially. German intelligence had identified them as a high-value target. The crew knew they were being specifically hunted. Every mission could be their last, and German forces were determined to prevent them from completing their historic achievement. Their final missions were flown with calculated precision that bordered on artistry. They used every technique they had developed, every tactical insight they had gained, and every psychological advantage they had built. The crew functioned with a level of coordination that impressed even veteran observers. On May 17, 1943, the Memphis Belle flew her 25th and final mission over Nazi Germany. The target was Lorient, France, a heavily defended submarine base that had destroyed numerous Allied bombers. The crew approached this mission with the same methodical preparation they had used for every previous flight. They returned successfully, becoming the first heavy bomber crew to complete 25 missions over Europe and return home. But their achievement was more than symbolic. It proved that systematic preparation, tactical intelligence, and psychological conditioning could overcome seemingly impossible odds. Final chapter: Conclusion and Legacy. The Memphis Belle's survival wasn't luck, divine intervention, or superior equipment. It was the result of 10 young Americans who approached aerial warfare as a solvable problem rather than a random lottery. They studied their enemies, prepared more thoroughly than anyone else, and maintained psychological unity under extreme pressure. Their innovations became standard practice for Allied bomber crews. The formation adjustments, mechanical preparation protocols, and psychological conditioning techniques pioneered by the Memphis Belle crew were incorporated into training programs that saved thousands of lives. More importantly, they proved that individual agency could triumph over statistical probability. In a war where survival seemed determined by random chance, the Memphis Belle crew demonstrated that intelligence, preparation, and teamwork could tip the scales in favor of survival. The real reason they survived 25 deadly missions over Nazi Germany wasn't that they were luckier than other crews. It was that they were smarter, more prepared, and more determined to survive. They treated survival as a skill that could be learned and perfected, rather than as a gift that some received and others didn't. Their story remains one of the most remarkable examples of how human ingenuity can overcome seemingly impossible odds. The Memphis Belle and her crew didn't just survive, they revolutionized survival itself. And that's a lesson that extends far beyond the battlefields of World War II. In any situation where the odds seem impossible, the Memphis Belle reminds us that careful preparation, tactical thinking, and unwavering determination can turn the improbable into the inevitable.